Welcome, my constant reader friends. I'm Tad, and this is Tad Reads Books and Stuff. So today, we're going to do a recap of what I read through February, and at the end, I will give you my March TBR, what I'm going to read in March. So let's first start off with the books that I finished. I did finish listening to Stone of Farewell by Tad Williams, of course. So this version of the book that I have has 569 pages. It was published in 2005, and it is the second book in the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy by Tad Williams. Of course, I'm going to talk about this a little bit. It's kind of hard to talk about a second, novel in a series. Here's the Dragonbone Chair. This, of course, is the first book in the series. It's hard to talk about the second book if you haven't read the first book, of course. There's also a third book in the original trilogy, which is To Green Angel Tower. Now, subsequent versions of this book are not in one volume. They did split it up into 2 volumes because it is so massive. But today we're gonna talk about this. So I finished listening to this. My Goodreads says it's my 3rd time reading this book. So that means it's actually my 4th because I back in the day I didn't even have Goodreads. This book on Goodreads currently has a 4.08 rating, which I think is pretty good. We'll put this down here. So what is it? Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn is basically a trilogy about this land called Austin Ard. Now in this land, through the first book, of course, you get the setup, you start meeting a lot of the characters, and the plot starts to develop. Some people do say it's pretty slow. I think it's a slow burn. I don't think it's bad at all. It's not to the point where you don't want to continue reading or anything like that, because you do learn a lot, and Tad's writing is amazing anyways. So what is Austin Ard? What is going on here? So it's a high fantasy classic, and it's about good versus evil, of course. In this book, there's an evil called the Storm King. He's the bad guy. Now, of course, he has other henchmen, if you want to call them, going around and doing his bidding for him, specifically Priorities, the right-hand man to King Elias. And King Elias is not an unwitting character in this. King Elias has great ambitions too. So he knows that Priorities is not good. He knows Priorities is working, I think, for the Storm King. But he has his reasons too. He knows Priorities is using him, and he knows that he is using Priorities as well. Now, who are the good guys in this? King Elias's brother, Joshua. They call him Joshua Lackhand because of a disability to one of his hands. Of course, in epic fantasy, this is a theme, even in history, if you read Robert Graves. The person that can't be king because he's deformed in some way. But anyway, so Joshua Lackhand is the good guy in this book, and he has his followers, of course, too. Mainly, there's these people called the League of Scrolls. They are older men and women in various places around this world, Austin Ard, that basically did, study. They read scrolls, the past histories, and they try to prevent, or they hope that they're going to eventually try to prevent this incursion from this Storm King who wants to take over everything, of course. And now you have many characters in this book. Let me just read a little bit here. Now, in the back of the novel, there is this whole section that talks, it's the appendix, of course, and it talks about the people in the book, the people that you'll meet in this, basically the series. But listen to this, there's Erkenlanders, one type of group of people. There's Hernestiri, there's Rimmersmen, there's the Nabane, there's the Scythi, there's the Quantic, there's the Thrithing folks. Yeah, it goes on a little bit more. There are the Ranamen, there are the Perdruinese, and of course there's even others. Now, I counted out the named characters that he actually names. They have roles in this series. There's 196 of these characters. So I have seen a lot of people say there's too many characters, I can't keep them straight, the book goes all over the place. And yes, Tad Williams is the master of having 5 different stories going on at one time, but they are all important to the overall arc of this story. And he expertly brings them all eventually together at the end of the book. And I think if you continue reading this series, if you're on book 2, you are not going to be dissatisfied with the ending. He does, bring it home, as they say. I love this series. Again, this is the 4th time I've read this book. I don't want to go into it too much because it is the 2nd book in the series. I will be continuing because there is a new, 4-book series that is going to be in the future of Austenard that I need to get to. There's 2 out already. There's 2 individual novellas that go in between that. They're pretty good. If you get into this whole Austenard world, you're going to love it. All right, so let's move on from there. Next, what else did I finish? I finished the 12, finally. Of course, this is J. Michael Straczynski and Chris Weston is the artist. The art in this is excellent. I really love it. I don't know, to me it's pretty cool. I like the color work. I like the line work. I like how the individual blocks do go along with the story, inform the rest of the story. The writing, of course, from J. Michael is amazing. This is pretty interesting. So basically what it is you have these 12 superheroes. Now, some of them, of course, have superpowers. Some of them do not. But they're a group of superheroes that come together. Why do they come together? Of course, they come together because they're fighting the evil Nazis. So in World War II. So they come together, and I'll just list the names of them real quick. There's the Phantom Reporter, there's Mr. E, there's Mastermind Excello, there's the Dynamic Man, there's Rockman, there's Captain Wonder, there's Black Widow, not that Black Widow. There's the Laughing Mask, there's the Fiery Mask, there's Blue Blade, and the Witness, and Electro. So what happens? So these guys, they all go over to fight the Nazis, and they're basically being led by Captain America. Captain America is in here, the Red Skull is in here, and they split up and they find this this cave, and they go in a cave, and there's all this mechanical stuff going around, and of course there's a mad scientist working for the Nazis, and he traps them. He puts them in these tubes of suspended animation, but of course the war is going on outside. Something happens, there's a cave-in, and these 12 superheroes get trapped in this cave for 60 years. Time goes by, and somebody's going to build a skyscraper or something on the site. They start digging, and they actually dig these 12 superheroes up. And now it's 60 years later, and they know nothing, of course, about the time and what's going on in the world. And it's their trials and tribulations. Of course, what happens is bad things start happening. Have they gone crazy? Have some of them gone crazy? What's going on? One of them gets murdered, so it's a murder mystery. They figure it out. It's a pretty good story. The book itself has 328 pages. It was published in 2013, and on Goodreads it's a 3.88. Not quite a 4, but not bad, I don't think. When I rate most of my books, I rate most books around a 3. They've got to be really good for me to rate it a 4, and of course they have to be amazing for me to rate it a 5. But anyways, it's a decent book. I thought it was fun. I will tell you, if you don't know who Michael Straczynski is, of course, he did Babylon 5, and he did Sense8. But also, just real quick, he worked at Top Cow. I don't know if you're familiar with the comic company Top Cow. I don't think it's even around anymore. But he did Rising Star, which led him to an offer to write Amazing Spider-Man, which he did for quite a while. He also wrote The Supreme Power, Fantastic Four, Bullet Points, The 12, recent fans revival. He revived Thor for a while. So he's done a lot of things, a lot of screenplays. He did The Changeling, which was directed by Clint Eastwood and starred Angelina Jolie. So he's done a lot of writing. If you're not familiar with him, I would search him out and start reading and watching some of his stuff. All right, we're finally down to The Trio for Loot. I did finish it. I finally finished it last night. Trio for Loot. It's Ra Mcavoy. Now, her real name is Roberta McAvoy. I think one thing that's pretty cute in here is right at the back of the book, the last page of the book, she writes Bertie McAvoy. So she must have gone by Bertie. So let's talk about The Trio for Loot. Why did I even want to read it? Well, back in the day, back in the 80s, I read this book called Tea with the Black Dragon by Ra Mcavoy. It was she writes small books for the most part, and this one was pretty interesting. It involved, of course, a black dragon, but in a strange, different type of way. It was more of a modern missing persons mystery type novel, and I liked it. It wasn't the best thing I'd ever read, but her writing style is really unique. It's different, and I liked it enough to make me search her out, which I found Damiano, which is the first book in this trilogy. So I remember I read Damiano, and then I found this book that had the trilogy. I bought that, but why did I stop reading? Well, now I kind of know why. What is the problem with this? Well, let's get the bookkeeping out of the way. Damiano, the first book in the trilogy, has 243 pages in it. It was published in 1983, and it does have a Goodreads grading of 3.82. So close to 4, not bad. Damiano's Loot is the second book in the trilogy. It has 254 pages. It was published in 1984, and it has a Goodreads rating of 3.86. So a little bit higher than the first novel. And then the third novel is Raphael. It has 230 pages. It again was also published in 1984, and it has a Goodreads rating of 3.78, which is the lowest out of the 3. Do I agree with those ratings? Yes, I do. I mean, I rated it, each book, a 3. I would go the same route as the ratings. I would say that the second book was the best of the 3, and the third book was the worst of the 3. So the Goodreads rating at least got it correct. What can I say about this? People, if you read, it says it's a historical fantasy because it does take place in the 14th century Italy and France. They do go to France too. And I don't think I think it's just pure fantasy. I mean, really, yes, there are some named people in this that were around in the 14th century Italy during this revolution. So I guess it's kind of historic fantasy, but that really doesn't play a lot of part in it. Well, I mean, yes, they have the problem with the revolution in some of the areas, and they also have a problem, with the plague, which of course happened during this time period too. So yeah, I guess it's a little historic, but it's really doesn't play a big part, I think, in the overall arcing trilogy. So yes, there's several characters. Damiano is the main character in the first two books. Raphael, the Archangel Raphael, is the main character in the third book. Raphael is in all three of them. Damiano is in all three of them. There's also other characters. There's animal companions, of course. There's this little white dog called Macchiata. Macchiata is cool. Coincidentally, I used to have a dog, a small wire-haired terrier. Her name was Maka. I called her Makati. So that's kind of, I don't think I got that name from this book because I didn't even remember it, but who knows. So there's Macchiata, and there's a black stallion called Fistigliama. It's hard. Fistigliambi. I don't speak Italian very, very well, of course. But there's they go through different areas in Italy. It's a travel, novel series, just like a lot of fantasy is. Now, what's the all right, everybody, bring it in. So, let's just cut to the chase. Would I suggest these three novels for you to read? No, I'm sorry, I would not. I can't suggest that you read these. Of all the millions of books out there, do you want to take, it took me a month to read these three novels. It's a month I won't get back. But I have to say, I'm glad I did it. I've been meaning to read these for years, and the way I am, it weighs on me that they are sitting on my shelf unread. So yes, I read them, and I have to say, I'm glad I read them, but I can't suggest that anybody else reads them. The storyline is just boring. I have to be honest, it's boring. Over 3 novels. It's boring. It starts out boring. It tries to pick up a little bit, but the problem is her writing style. Her writing style is very unique. I actually think that her prose are wonderful, but her style is so slow and plodding. You want to talk about a slow burn? This is the quintessential slow, but there's no real burn. Does that even sound reasonable? But it's just slow, super slow. Every book. The second book is a little bit better than the first book, but I did mark here. I want to read this. You guys probably turned off already, but there's a part here. It says, Damiano raged within his music, but could not escape. Sweet Mother of God, that the planets should arc above him and he not see them, that the mouse should squeak in the stone and he not hear, that a horse who served him should speak and be not understood, and that men and women should walk by and leave him as numb to them as a dead man. I don't know why. I've read that paragraph 9 times. It's good writing. It is, but it just doesn't go anywhere. You don't care about the characters. You don't care about the, what's happening to them. The overarching plot of the whole 3 novels is boring. Yes, things happen. They go to, and they meet the devil. They fight the devil. Because you've got Raphael, an archangel, and of course his brother is Morningstar, the devil. They have a huge battle. The Black Dragon from Tea with the Black Dragon shows up in the last novel, which I thought was going to be great, and he was kind of cool. Probably turned out to be probably the best character in the novel, but still, it was boring. So I can't suggest that you read this. Anyways, I'm happy that I read it. I did give them all a 3 rating, but all right, so that's what I finished. Let's real quick go through what I'm going to read next month. Next month is going to be my first full-out Stephen King month. I'm going to read, I've had these on my bookshelf forever, and I haven't read them. So I am going to read these graphic novels. Oh, they're heavy. The Gunslinger Born. Look at the artwork. The artwork on these is magnificent. That's the first book in the first series, first graphic novel series. The second one is The Long Road Home. There's that one. Check out the back here. That's the second one in the Gunslinger Born, the first series. Here's the third one. It's called Treachery. That's cool. Check out the back here if you can see that. Then there's The Fall of Gilead, or Gilead, I'm sorry. can't talk. That cover's cool. Back is, well, a little boring on this one. And then, of course, the last one in the series is The Battle of Jericho Hill. All right, that's cool. Here's the back. Now, there is one more in this first series. It was a one-shot. I have it on order. I don't have it here yet, but I will be reading them in order. Hopefully, I can get through them all this month of March. So that's the first thing I'm going to read. What else? Well, as you all know, the third book in the Gwendy's trilogy just came out, was just released recently. So I'm going to read the whole trilogy. I'm going to read Wendy's Button Box, which is the first book. I'm going to read, I got these backwards. Wendy's Magical Feather is the second book. And then Gwendy's Final Task is the third book, which just came out. So these are written by Stephen King and Richard Chizmar. Of course, the second book here, Gwendy's Magic Feather, is only written by Richard Chizmar. Stephen King does do the foreword in it, but he didn't write this book, only Richard Chizmar, but he and Richard Chizmar wrote the other 2 books. So I'm going to be reading those 3 books too. What am I going to be listening to? I am going to be listening to Valor by John Gwynne. Of course, that's the second book in his series. I loved the first book so much that I'm going to be continuing with this series. And Valor is the second book. I will be listening to that. And hopefully I can get all this done in the month of March. And so this whole month is going to be pretty much, except for Valor, is going to be a Stephen King month. I have some other planned videos. I'm going to do a bookshelf video and things like that concerning Stephen King for the rest of the month. And hopefully we'll get this all taken care of in March. All right, guys, thanks for staying with me and listening to me all this time. Please like and subscribe and hit the bell and all that good stuff if you enjoy any portion of this. I know I'm always long, but I just can't stop talking about books. All right, guys, thank you. Peace out.